8:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is a news edited by Lakshman Fonseca and read by J. Yogaraj. First the headlines. Finance State Minister says the recent depreciation of rupee is temporary. Health Ministry warns dengue is still on the rise with the majority reported from the Western Province. The Wildlife Protection Society says at least 6,000 wild elephants had been killed during the last 10 years. The GCE ordinary level practical exams for aesthetic subjects begin on the 2nd of August. Teaching appointments for graduates shortly. In the main news, Power and Energy Minister says dealers have not placed their orders to maintain their diesel stock requirements on time. Putin says Russia does not reject peace talks, and those are the headlines. State Minister of Finance, Ranjit Simbalapitiya, says that the depreciation of the Sri Lanka rupee in recent days is a temporary issue. Speaking to the media today, Minister said that the government has allowed the value of US dollar and the rupee to be determined depending on supply and demand. He said that there were about $750 million in Sri Lanka's development bonds, and it was agreed that the value of the development bonds should be paid in Sri Lanka rupees during the domestic debt restructuring. Therefore, it was brought with dollar deposits, and there is a need for the banks to collect the amount of dollars in order to provide the money to the depositors when they need it, State Minister added. State Minister also emphasized that the banks can limit the release of the dollars they have received to the market to some extent in order to accumulate this, but some quantity of it can be bought from the market. He added, along with these issues, the depreciation of the rupee and the increase in the value of the dollar happened in the last few days. Dengue is still on the rise with the majority of cases reported from the Western Province. The National Dengue Control Unit at the Ministry of Health that 50% of the cases are reported from the Western Province. Director of the Dengue Control, our National Dengue Control Unit, Dr. Nalin Ariyatna says the highest number of dengue patients has been reported from Colombo district. The second highest number had been reported from the Trincomalee district. Among them, there have been several deaths reported as well. Those with fever should seek medical help, and the health units advise patients to get ample rest. Those suspected of dengue are also advised not to take aspirin, diclofenac sodium or mefenic acid and other non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. The National Dengue Control Unit advised all residents and business establishments to carry out regular cleaning of their surroundings to ensure there are no breeding grounds for dengue mosquitoes. This news comes to you from Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Norwegian Embassy in Colombo announced that it will close tomorrow. The embassy said in a statement that from the 1st of August, the Norwegian Embassy in New Delhi will be responsible for Norway's bilateral relationship with Sri Lanka and Maldives. The Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced early June that they have decided to close the embassy in Colombo from July 2023. The embassy stated that more updates on its ongoing cooperation with India, Sri Lanka and Maldives will be available on the new Facebook page. The Wildlife Protection Society says at least 6,000 wild elephants had been killed during the last 10 years. The society stresses the need of founding an authority or establishing an authority to protect these valuable animals. They said the government should also focus on finding a sustainable solution to address a decade-old human-elephant conflict. They said that the situation is worse and there may be also such other issues which were not reported in the media. Minister of Education Susil Premchandra says new graduates will be appointed as teachers shortly. Speaking to the media in Kaluthara, the minister said that it has been planned to recruit new graduates as teachers for the subject streams of science, technology and English language and foreign languages. Meanwhile, the Education Ministry is to launch a mobile service to resolve issues in provincial schools this week. Education Minister Susil Premchandra said the move is to ensure the smooth functioning of provincial council-run schools in the absence of political administration. Minister Prem Jayantha and a team of officials led by the ministry secretary will take part in the mobile service program. The committee expects to cover all 9 provinces step-wise. The first of the program started on Friday in the Uva province. And that's local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara says the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has informed that 101 fuel station dealers have not placed their orders to maintain their Lanka auto diesel stock requirements as of yesterday. He added for Octane 92 and Petrol 61 dealers had done the same. He said last month the CPC took over the management of several fuel stations that had not maintained minimum stocks and began legal proceedings on several other dealers. The minister requests all fuel station dealers to maintain adequate stocks and place orders accordingly. The minister said CPC has adequate stocks for delivery. He said the Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited and CPC plants have 124,690 metric tons of diesel and 5,651 metric tons of super diesel as of 8:30 a.m. today. And that came to you in top news.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
In Watchlight, at least one person has died in 10 road accidents every 3 hours in Sri Lanka since 2016. The police motor traffic department says 8 people die daily due to road accidents since 2016. The data showed 20,728 people have been killed in road accidents in the 7.5 year between January 1st, 2016 to June 30th, 2023, in total of 223,451 accidents. State Transport Minister Lasantha Alagiyawanna says the government is in the process of introducing a demerit points system for the traffic offences, and it expects to implement from 1st of January 2024. And that came to you in Watchlight. And moving on to world news. Putin says Russia does not reject peace talks. UNICEF says 92 million children in Europe and Central Asia are exposed to high heat waves. Local officials in South Korea are under investigation for the tunnel flooding. And those are the headlines of the world news. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he does not reject the idea of peace talks on Ukraine. Speaking after meeting African leaders in St. Petersburg, he said African and Chinese initiatives could serve as a basis for finding peace. But Mr. Putin also said there could be no ceasefire while the Ukrainian army was on the offensive. In the hours after he spoke, Russia said a Ukrainian drone attack on Moscow had damaged 2 office blocks. Flights were briefly suspended from Vnukovo Airport, southwest of the city center, and 1 person was injured, Russia's state news agency TASS reported. UNICEF says 92 million children in Europe and Central Asia are exposed to high heat wave frequency. It added that this was double the global average of 1 in 4 children exposed to high heat wave frequency. Beat the Heat Protecting Children from Heat Waves in Europe and Central Asia notes that the children are particularly vulnerable to the impacts of heat waves, putting them at risk of serious illness including heat stroke. Infants and young children are most at risk during heat waves as their core temperatures rise significantly higher and faster than adults. A total of 36 local officials in South Korea are under investigation for the tunnel flooding earlier this month that killed 14 people, authorities said. An inquiry launched 2 days after the tragedy found that officials had ignored multiple warnings of a flood ahead of the incident. Severe rains on the weekend of 15 July had caused widespread flooding and landslides in multiple places. At least 40 people died in the disaster across the country. And that's world news. Development news. President Ranil Wickremesinghe announced that the government will be unveiling a new tourist plan called Visit Sri Lanka that will be released in the upcoming months. He claimed that a proposal is in the final stages of the development and would be made public as soon as as soon as it is complete. The government aims to bring in 5 million tourists, of whom 2.5 million will be high-end visitors. And President Wickremesinghe said, while emphasizing the industry as a significant economic driver, according to the Indian estimates, Sri Lanka can host up to 10 million tourists, of whom most will be tourists from Asia. And that was the development news.
Development News is brought to you by
Vacancies for women from Deshakti Lanka for housemaids in Kuwait, Oman and Saudi Arabia for ages 23 to 58 years. Contact number 037 7500 500. Vacancies for women from Deshakti Lanka for housekeepers, home cooks, caretakers and home nurses in Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia and Singapore for ages 23 to 57 years. Salaries starting from 156,000 rupees. Interviews with foreign agents are now on. Come whether you have a passport or not. Branches, Colombo, Kurunagala, Anuradhapura and Matara. Contact number 037 7500 500.
Moving on to sports news, the fourth edition of the Lanka Premier League started in Colombo this evening. The season opener will see defending champions the Jaffna Kings taking on Colombo Strikers. The game is scheduled to get underway at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo at 7:30 p.m. Sri Lanka Cricket announced that the gates will open for spectators from 3:30 p.m. this evening. The series will run till 21st August. The matches being played at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo and Palekala Cricket Stadium in Kandy. And that was the sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හිර හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The 2021 National Lotteries Board audit report has revealed several instances of wasting and misuse of funds. The report reveals that even though the approval has been sought to spend a sum of 40 million rupees on the construction of a new building and to obtain consultancy services, such a building too has not been constructed. It has been alleged that the NLB had illegally acquired a building on a rent basis and had been paying 20 million rupees from May 2020 to May 2022. However, the report confirms that the building is an illegal construction that has been built since proper approval. And that was the business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හිර හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
And now in economic news.
The export income of the island has increased up to $13 billion during the last 2 years. The export income of the country remained approximately at $10 billion during the past decade. Additional Secretary to the Ministry of Industries, Chaminda Patiraja, said that the progress of the industry field has resulted in the increased income productions regarding rubber, plastics and boards, and innovations through the university research have added to it. And that was the economic news. Weather report. The Met Department says several spells of showers in western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Matara districts. The Met Department added that showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in the Ampara and Batticaloa districts during the evening or night. Mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere over the island. Meanwhile, fairly strong winds of about 40 kilometers per hour can be expected at times on the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern, north-central provinces, and in Hambantota and Trichinopoli districts. And that was the weather report. To wind up this news broadcast, let's look at the main points once again. Finance State Minister says recent depreciation of rupee is temporary. Health Ministry warns dengue is still on the rise, with the majority reported from the western province. The Wildlife Protection Society says at least 6,000 wild elephants had been killed during the last 10 years. The GCE ordinary level practical exams for aesthetic subjects begin on the 2nd of August. Teaching appointments for graduates shortly. And with that, we conclude this news podcast of Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And it's back to Mario Vijayawardena to keep you company with the rest of the programs this Sunday evening.